All right, let's dive into a question that sounds like it's straight out of science fiction, but it's actually rooted in some very real and pretty weird physics. Could we, as in all of humanity, become a battery?
So, here's the big idea. What if you could power an entire city? Not with anything conventional, but with just the raw energy of people. Like, could a sold-out stadium actually keep the lights on for a neighborhood?
Yeah, forget the grid, We're talking about something else entirely. We're talking about every heartbeat, every little movement, every single warm body packed into a massive crowd. Could we actually harness all of that?
This whole thing apparently started from a super simple, totally relatable observation. Someone named Leo was just looking at a huge crowd and thought, man, that's a lot of energy. Surely we can plug that into something. It seems like a reasonable thought, right? Well, let me tell you, the answer gets strange, and it gets strange very, very quickly.
All right, let's get into it. And to do this, we're going to start small. We're going to build this sort of ladder of scale, And the very first rung on that ladder, the smallest possible unit of human work we could think of, just a single keystroke.
First things first, we need a baseline. So just you, sitting there right now, you're radiating about 100 watts of heat. That's pretty much the same as an old-school incandescent light bulb. Kind of seems promising, doesn't it? Like, we're all just walking, talking 100-watt light bulbs.
Okay, now let's get into the sheer absurdity of the physics here. One single keystroke has about 1.5 millijoules of energy. So, what on earth does that even mean? Well, it's just enough juice to lift one squirrel about the height of 4 sheets of paper stacked together. Yeah, we're not exactly building pyramids with this stuff. Okay, so let's scale that up. What if you did more than one keystroke? What if you wrote an entire novel? 1,000,000 characters, 1,000,000 taps on the keyboard. All that effort, it adds up to exactly 1 single kilojoule of energy.
And here it is, our first big reality check. After writing a whole book, all that human effort, all those tiny squirrel lifts, would power your laptop for a measly 30 seconds. 30 seconds. And get this, to run a simple microwave, you'd need to type a full novel every single second.
Okay, so clearly a single writer isn't going to cut it. Let's go bigger. Let's scale up dramatically. We're going from 1 person to 100,000. I want you to picture this. A sold-out stadium, 100,000 people, and they're all typing novels for 1 solid hour. The grand total, all their combined energy output, comes to 100 megajoules. I mean, that sounds impressive, right? Megajoules. It's a big number. But here's where the problem of scale really hits you. Those 100 megajoules from our stadium full of authors, turns out that's about the same amount of energy you'd get from just a few gallons of gasoline. And now, if you compare that to just the waste heat coming off a submarine's nuclear reactor, well, our massive human effort barely even shows up on the chart.
No, seriously, think about that for a second. To generate the same amount of power that a nuclear reactor just throws away as useless heat, you would need to get the entire population of Brazil into one room and have them all start typing. It's just not practical.
All right, so typing is a total bust. It's way too inefficient. So let's pivot. Let's try something else. What if we stop trying to get energy from work and instead just harvest the heat our bodies are already making all the time? Now this sounds a lot more promising. I mean, if we took all 8 billion people on Earth and each one is a 100-watt heater, we'd have a total output of 800 gigawatts. That's 100 times more than a city like New York needs. We finally solved it, right? Or have we?
Yeah, unfortunately, gathering that much biological matter in one place creates a brand new and frankly much more terrifying physics problem. They call it the humanized autoclave effect. Because, well, when you trap 800 gigawatts of heat, things get very, very hot.
And it escalates fast. First, the air temperature would shoot up to sauna levels, then it would just keep climbing, getting as hot as a kiln. And finally, it would reach the temperature and pressure of an autoclave. And at that point, you're not dealing with biology anymore. You've become a problem for physics.
Okay, fine. You know what? Let's take this thought experiment to its absolute most unhinged conclusion. Forget the keystrokes, forget the body heat. What if we could convert the actual chemical energy of every human being directly into power?
So, if you could somehow convert the 500 trillion calories that make up the entire human race into pure energy, you would release 2 exajoules. Now, to put that number into perspective, that's the same as 2 atomic bombs. Or even crazier, it's like every single lightning strike on Earth hitting the exact same spot at the exact same time.
And what would all that world-shattering, planet-altering power get us? It would be enough to power the entire United States for just 5 minutes.
So why? Why does every single one of these scenarios fail so spectacularly? It's not actually about the number of people, it turns out. It's about a really fundamental concept in physics. Let's break it down.
It all comes down to one single idea: energy density. A little cube of uranium holds 6 million times more energy than the same size cube of coal, and it holds an absolutely astronomical amount more than a cube of, well, us. We just aren't built to store energy efficiently.
So in the end, that's what we really are, as a power source. We're not some sleek, efficient battery. We're more like a very large, kind of damp, and incredibly inefficient space heater.
Okay, so let's bring it all home. After all this, after the keystrokes, the stadiums, and, converting all of humanity into a lightning storm, can a crowd power a city?
The answer is, well, technically yes, for about 5 minutes, if you're willing to turn everyone into plasma. But for a stable power grid, it turns out we are much better off using the energy that's around us rather than trying to be the energy ourselves. We're just these leaky, inefficient 100-watt light bulbs of heat. And maybe that's exactly what makes us wonderful. We're just not meant to be batteries.